The review then for LBJ Part 2 Civil Rights. Okay, so I'll start with Stacia over there and ask Stacia this question. Who was the white member of the Civil Rights Movement that was murdered as a result of the events in Mississippi? Actually, there was more than one. Give me the 3 white members of the Civil Rights Movement that were murdered as a result of the events in Mississippi. There you go, okay?
It was Andrew Goodman, Michael Schwerner, and James Earl.
And who was the black person?
James Earl.
Very good. So I would know those 3 fellows, okay? Miss Reed, who was the sheriff of Selma, Alabama, who handled protesters there with brute force which led to violence? The sheriff of Selma, Alabama, who handled protesters there with brute force leading to violence. And again, I'm trying to kind of go down your notes. Jim Clark. Now, if I'm asking you for names, what am I concentrating on? The IDs, okay? All right, Abby, who was the advisor for Dr. King who explained Dr. King's reaction to President Johnson's speech in which Johnson stated, "We shall overcome"? Okay, there was a specific supporter, advisor for Dr. King who talked about that. C.T. Vivian, very good. C.T. Vivian was that advisor for Dr. King who explained that Dr. King got a tear in his eye, rolling down his cheek when he heard Lyndon Johnson make the statement, "We shall overcome" in his civil rights speech, because that was what basically his creed was. Okay, Keaton, who was the leader of the Black Power movement that defined Dr. King's nonviolent philosophy of the civil rights movement as a tactic? Let me go back and let's go in order here. That's not really in order, okay? Let's forget I said that, okay? Okay, Keaton, who was the guy, he was a member of the SCLC, and he explained the philosophy of the love thy neighbor quote in the slums of Chicago. Who was that? He was a guy that stated the philosophy of love thy neighbor is that you hope your neighbor does well and has a lot of possessions, because if he doesn't have any possessions, what's he going to do? He's going to come after yours. And you hope he has justice, because if he doesn't have justice, who's he going to expound his anger upon? His neighbor. So who said that?
Walter
Fautroy. Walter Fautroy. Very good. Walter Fautroy. Again, I'm going to try to go in order here if I can. Well, if I don't mention him, you won't have to worry about it. Okay? All right. Who was the, this will go to Michael. Who is the leader of the Black Power movement that defined Dr. King's nonviolent philosophy of the civil rights movement as simply a tactic? He didn't believe it was part of the civil rights movement, or it didn't make up the civil rights movement. He believed it was simply a tactic used in the civil rights movement, but the key thing is he was the leader of the Black Power movement.
I think it's Malcolm X.
No, he was a radical civil rights person. He was not a leader of anything. He was simply a very radical civil rights person. Who was the leader? Stokely Carmichael. Yeah, Stokely Carmichael. Yep. Very good. Okay. Hadley, who was the man who shot James Meredith while he was marching from Memphis, Tennessee to Jackson, Mississippi? Who was the man who shot James Meredith while he was marching from Memphis, Tennessee to Jackson, Mississippi? I bet you I can find it in your notes.
I had him.
Oh, if you had him. Okay, Courtney. I believe that happened one time to her. But look at her. She's got him today, or no?
Yeah, I do. I just don't know where.
Okay, how about you, Mort?
I think I was going with James.
Oh, that sounds like Josh Gentile. Yes.
Aubrey James Norval.
Aubrey James Norvell was the man who shot James Meredith while he was marching from Memphis, Tennessee to Jackson, Mississippi. Okay. Who founded the Black Panthers in Oakland, California with Huey Newton? Shelby? Who founded the Black Panthers organization out of Oakland, California with Huey Newton?
Bobby Seale.
Bobby Seale, very good.
So we won't need to know Huey Newton's. We will. If
Well,
we decide.
I would know that Huey Newton and Bobby Seale founded the Black Panthers.
And that was just our Oakland.
Yeah, that's where it started.
So then they go together.
Okay, Miss Barris, who is the Michigan congressman who initiated the first legislation to make Dr. King's birthday a national holiday? John Conyers, very good. John Conyers. Now we'll see if anybody's really listening here, because I have confidence that Burke's gonna get this.
Ronald Reagan, sorry.
Huh?
Nothing.
You weren't here that day? Oh,
That's the question.
Burke, name the person's, okay, give me the name used to purchase the rifle used in the assassination of Dr. King. It wasn't A.J. Heidel. Name that was used to purchase the rifle. You'd have to go to those notes that I supplied for you to find that information that you all read so diligently. Burke, I'm getting,
Lohmeyer.
who?
Harvey Lohmeyer.
That's right, Harvey Lohmeyer. That's right, nice job. Okay, Delancey, who was the man who first defended James Earl Ray in the trial following King's assassination? First defended him, because he had two people that defended him. Who's the first person, Delancey, that defended him?
Percy Foreman.
Percy Foreman. J.B. Stoner was the second, which you will not need to know. Okay, Ms. Schropel, who is the Attorney General of the United States who with J. Edgar Hoover investigated the King assassination? The Attorney General who, along with J. Edgar Hoover, investigated the King assassination. He also would be on the notes I gave you, my dear. That means you must have been related to Jessup.
Or Jim Clark.
Or Jim now. Oh, good.
Else with the last name Clark.
All right, Ms. Costales.
It's possible. People.
Tell me who was the Olympic athlete who placed first in the 200-meter run at the '68 Olympic Games that led to the most publicized protest in American history?
Tommy Smith.
Tommy Smith. Who placed third?
John Carlos.
John Carlos. Good, very good. Know those.
So is it spelled Tommy with a Y or is it I-E?
I.E. I.E. Hi, Mr. Supas.
Hi, sir.
Would you like the next question, or do you have something else?
Well, okay, I'll answer the question, and then I will, then I gotta pass some information on to you.
Okay, who is the first radical leader concerning the civil rights movement in America? Come on, Mr. Supas is trying to get, I'll give him another one. Malcolm X, that's
Yeah,
true.
that's, okay.
You'll get this one.
Okay.
Here we go, now let him answer, kids. Who was the person whose actions started what we know in American history today as the civil rights movement?
Oh, the person was Dr. Martin Luther King.
No, before him.
Oh, before
Whose actions got Dr. King in it?
You know it.
I probably.
You'll kick yourself.
You know.
I'm not getting, hey, listen, don't come in here and try to get my seat in this class. Just because you're white, I'm not gonna give you this seat.
Really, she's not, there was an incident, wait, she is not the star, no!
Hey, for the test tomorrow, I'd put Rosa Parks.
Yeah, that's what, yeah, no, I would
Okay,
disagree with
What
that,
can I do,
Mr.
what can I
Durham.
do for you?
Jack Johnson. Rosa.
She was nothing.
There was a documented case that there was a teenage kid a month before that did the same thing Rosa Parks did, but no, that teenage kid doesn't get any credit.
That's true.
It's Rosa Parks.
Hey, he's true in his sarcasm, he's true. But it was Rosa Parks' action that got Dr. King though.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your deal? What's your deal?
ACT. I
Yeah.
just got an email. The labels that they sent, the pre-done up labels, are incorrect.
Perfect.
Did you put them already on the book?
Because I
Okay.
know better.
They directed us to shred them, and they are sending us new labels.
Okay.
But I figured you hadn't, but I figured I better
No,
come
because
down.
I knew there's always something.
There's something.
Yeah, thank you for telling me that.
Rosa
All right, moving
Parks.
on. And finally, the last one, Stacia. Who is the third man in the famous photo from the 1968 Olympic Games who was from Australia?
Peter Norman.
Peter Norman. Those names will all be used in matching tomorrow. Or Tuesday.
Do we need to know his place? Is that our place?
That's not, no, that's part of it.
Are there true false questions? So matching.
We're gonna get to that. Boy, you're all pretty excited.
The last time I kind of screwed myself.
Kaylee, I want you to know we missed you here because it's just kind of crazy without you around this place.
Oh, okay.
All right, whose turn is it? Myers? It won't matter. It will not matter. Here we go. Name 2 examples of the violence that occurred during the Freedom Summer Project in Mississippi. I actually gave you 4. So give me 2 of the examples that violence occurred during the Summer Freedom Project.
Okay.
Freedom Summer Project.
Many volunteers were battered, homes were set on fire, churches were burned, and 3 volunteers went missing.
Very good. All you need is 2 of those 4, kids. The question again is, give 2 examples of the violence that occurred during the Freedom Summer Project in Mississippi. There are 4 examples that Emily gave us. You'll need to have 2 of those 4, okay?
Oh, I read them.
Well, you can find them in your notes. I'm quite confident. Okay, moving on. Miss Saskia, what, quote, landmark in Selma, Alabama stood out during the Civil Rights March for voting rights in that city? What was the big landmark that stood out, where all the action occurred? We talked about it actually in our little article today. And I want you to know, Saskia, how much you've improved, because 3 months ago you'd have been bright red and shaking like this. Okay, so we'll come back to you. Daylin? Edmund Pettus Bridge. Okay, all right, Saskia, I'm coming right back at you. What piece of legislation was finally passed due to the efforts of the civil rights movement in Selma? Now in Finland, I don't know if you go to the polls or not, but
Voting Rights Act of 1965.
very good. Voting Rights Act of 1965. Again, that was the piece of legislation that was finally passed due to the efforts of the civil rights movement in Selma. I've just about got her Americanized. It's very,
When you repeated that, you went so talk like that.
like what?
Your accent.
All right. Mr. Pennington, give me thought. Why, she's really easy. I got her nervous. She's throwing stuff at me. Go and trip over the thing. Kaylee, you're really missing out. I want you to know. Well, Carolyn's been, she's used to it. Okay. Carolyn, I hope you're winning some money.
miss you too,
I'll see you
Carolyn.
tomorrow. Okay. All right, Mr. Pennington, give me 5 examples of the final result of what happened in Watts. 5 examples of the final result of what happened in Watts.
I don't have those notes.
You weren't here that day?
Yeah, just,
Give me 5.
34 people were killed, 900 injured, 4,000 people, around 4,000 people were arrested, and 209 buildings were gutted by fire.
That's 4.
787 damaged buildings.
Right. Stores were also stripped by looters. Property loss amounted to nearly $46 million. The violence hurt President Johnson's Great Society program. The riots drew attention to more radical black leaders such as Malcolm X, and it initiated the new civil rights movement known as Black Power. Any of those 5 would be wonderful. Okay, Jessup, speaking of Chicago in 1966, what were the three issues that Dr. King was campaigning to address? In other words, why did he go to Chicago in the first place?
Lack of education, lack of employment, unfair housing practices.
Okay, and to make it easy for you, the way I worded the question, you could just put education, employment, and unfair housing practices would be great. So you don't get confused. Education, employment, and unfair housing practices. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Jones, what I'd like you to do is give me 3 examples of the final results of the riot in Detroit. Timeout. You got a timeout.
Oh, I did. No, wait, say it again.
Okay, give me 3 examples of the final result of the riots in Detroit. Usually somebody's killed.
Oh,
You are
it is. Like 43 people were killed.
43 people killed, nearly all were black.
25% of the city was burned.
25% of the city was burned.
50 million of property destroyed.
50 million worth of property destroyed.
150 million of losses.
Total losses exceeded 150 million. You need 3 of those 4. Okay, perfect. Hey, who made this comment, Shayna? Who made this comment? Political power comes through the barrel of a gun. Now we're not going in order so much. Who made the comment, Shayna? Political power comes through the barrel of a gun. No. Yes. Huey Newton. Huey Newton made the comment, political power comes through the barrel of a gun. Okay, Haley. You may not have this, but yeah, I won't ask you that because I don't think you have it. Okay, Burke, what event was Dr. King supporting during his visit to Memphis, Tennessee in late March, early April 1968? What event was Dr. King supporting during his visit to Memphis, Tennessee? What?
The strike of black sanitation workers.
That's a perfect answer. The strike of black sanitation workers. Perfect. Okay, Mr. Sanchez, how much was the reward that was offered for information leading to the capture and conviction of Dr. King's assassin?
$100,000.
$100,000. Don't be like my 5th period U.S. history class. You know, don't put like this. Okay, that won't do it. Now, if you do this, it'll be great. If you do this, it won't be so good. Okay, if you do,
What if we do the greater symbol?
just go like that. They have trouble with that. Yeah, okay? Or you could write dollars afterwards if you want, or make it so it makes sense. Okay, Miss Jeffries, what was the name of the famous book that Dr. King published in 1958? Come on, stride towards this answer, man. I'll make you free if you do.
Wow.
Something strong.
Look on your ID sheet.
Movement in human rights.
Okay, listen, I want you to stride towards this answer. I'll set you free.
Strides on freedom.
Stride toward freedom. Don't screw that and say, don't say stride to freedom or run into freedom or run into be, stride toward freedom. Okay. Who's Mr. Football in here? Anybody? Taryn, Mr. Football. What state finally gave in to public pressure of a national holiday for Dr. King because of Super Bowl 37?
Arizona.
27, excuse me. What?
Arizona.
Arizona. Very good. Okay, Ms. Soderstrom, true or false? True or false? The demonstration marches in Chicago were through all white neighborhoods to protest discrimination practices by real estate agents in that area. True. Now don't look through your notes, just answer, kids. Sarah, true or false? It was in Indianapolis, Indiana, that Robert Kennedy gave his famous speech after hearing of the assassination of Dr. King. True. Okay, Keaton, true or false? Dr. King's assassination set off urban rioting and violence in more than 100 cities across America, most notable in Chicago and Washington, D.C.
True.
True. Okay, very good. Shelby Hodges, true or false? Dr. King's outspoken views on the Vietnam War resulted in a loss of financial support for the civil rights movement.
True.
That is true. Okay? Jessa, true or false? The reason for James Meredith's march from Memphis, Tennessee to Jackson, Mississippi was to promote black voter registration and reduce the fears black people had in the state of Mississippi. True. Way to have that with some conviction. Okay. Miss Lopez, true or false? Dr. King believed that the Black Power movement was one of the most dangerous components and challenges to the civil rights movement. True. Ms. Costales, it was during the violence in Chicago where Dr. King first began to realize that the civil rights movement might result in his death.
Yeah, that's true.
That is true.
Because he's
See, I was trying to stay out. Shelby Reed, true or false? The Watts riot began with the arrest of a Negro band for drunken driving. Is that true? Okay, true. All right. Morg, true or false? After receiving the Nobel Peace Prize, Dr. King announced it was his intention to register 3 million black voters in the South. Don't let my demeanor throw you off. True. And Sarah, during the civil rights movement of the 1960s, only 5% of Negroes in the state of Mississippi had registered to vote, despite the fact that they made up 50% of the state's population. That is true. One last thing. I'll just read this to you, you can figure it out yourself. Short essay question. Make a detailed comparison of Dr. King's nonviolent philosophy of the